Anyway, speaking of useless entities, the United States Biden administration has been pushing Israel to declare a 21-day ceasefire in the north, in Lebanon. And they didn't just say, "Hey, Israel, how about we let's talk about a ceasefire? Sure. How about we come together at the negotiating table and talk to Hassan Nasrallah and see if we can get everybody to agree to a ceasefire?" No, that's not what they did. They just declared a ceasefire. The United States just tried today they just came out, they just announced that there would be a ceasefire, 21-day ceasefire, so that they could allow non-citizens to evacuate from Lebanon.
That's crazy.
And Israel was like, wait, what? No, we're not having a ceasefire. And Hassan Nasrallah was like, oh, heck no ceasefire from us.
What?
So neither of the belligerent parties are on board with this. Sounds a lot like the ceasefire proposals that Biden was making for Gaza, which went nowhere. These 21-day ceasefire was meant, like I said, to allow non-citizens to evacuate. Well, they've been calling on non-citizens to evacuate for months. And so if they're not gone by now, they probably don't want to leave. And if they do want to leave and they didn't by now, that's on them. Like, what? I don't understand. Look, you could see this coming a mile away. It's no surprise that Hezbollah and Israel are about to go toe-to-toe on the ground in Lebanon. That's no surprise. So unless you got your head in the sand and you've been spending way too much time on TikTok, you would be crazy if you wanted to leave Lebanon not to have already left. But the United States is saying, nope, we have to have a 21-day ceasefire, which they would definitely push for a permanent ceasefire. This is Anthony Blinken's lame way of saying that they are working around the clock to de-escalate the situation. What they're doing is absolutely worthless. They're not de-escalating anything. They're over there chattering like a monkey, and neither of the belligerent parties are paying any attention to them because they're making about as much sense as a monkey. This is the feckless nature of the Biden administration's foreign policy.
It's
just
crazy.
Makes my head want to explode. It's just unbelievable. So, like I say, neither of those have said that they are willing for a ceasefire. On top of that, all of the major nations like the United States, the UK, and France, and other nations are sending troops over to Cyprus so that they can evacuate their civilians if it comes down to it. Which it's like, why aren't you doing it right now? You can see this coming. Why are you waiting until there's a full-on conflict on the ground in Lebanon to get people out? Okay, hello. This was surprising to me. I looked up today. I wondered how many Americans could there be in Lebanon? I've been to Lebanon a couple of times, and it's a nice place in areas. They've got some very beautiful nature in Lebanon, and the hidden rocket bases in the mountains notwithstanding, there's some beautiful places in Lebanon. Beautiful people in Lebanon, nice beaches. You can go parasailing at the coast in Beirut. There are some nice places there, but how many Americans are actually, choosing that as a retirement destination? Like, yeah, where I'm going to take my Social Security and move to Lebanon. That's where I want to go. Well, there's actually 86,000 American citizens living in Lebanon. That's about as many as there are living in Panama. That's mind-boggling. Now, I think the reason for that is that these are not, regular old Americans who just are looking for a place to retire and have decided to move to Lebanon. These are Lebanese Americans.
Right.
They're people with dual citizenship.
Right.
But since they have American citizenship, they enjoy the rights and privileges of American citizens when they're overseas. And that means that the United States is responsible to help them if they get in a jam. And if you look back at the last war in 2006, the U.S. Marines had to go in there and evacuate about 15,000 American citizens after the war started. Now, that was a very short, very intense war. That one was 34 days long. And there's something interesting about that war that you ought to know because it can inform our understanding of what will likely happen in this war that's about to start, or it has started. It's just they haven't gone in on the ground yet. The 2006 war, who do you think started that? Who was the initial party that attacked first? Anybody? Any idea? Yeah, it was Hezbollah. They attacked by going into Israel across the border, and they took out several IDF soldiers, captured a few, and wounded some other people. And that, among other things, was kind of the catalyst for the beginning of the 2006, the Second Lebanon War. And at the end of that war, 34 days later, there were 1,000 dead Lebanese. And so they definitely got the worst end of that stick. So this is a theme that we see over and over and over again. You'd think that these organizations would learn that in virtually every case, Israel gets attacked by somebody else, then Israel rises up to defend itself, and by the time it's over, Israel wins, and the attacker that started the thing ends up with massive losses. We've seen that from Hamas. It's absolutely horrific what Hamas did on October 7th, but the losses that have been seen inside Gaza have been orders of magnitude worse. I put up a video on chuckholton.com today. Again, there are lots of videos that I get that I can't show you on YouTube for one reason or another. And so I put them up over on chuckholton.com. You can go subscribe for free and see those videos. Sometimes, if it's really graphic, I'll make it supporter only, but most of the time they're free. And the one that I'm talking about now, you can see for free over there. And it's a drone shot of a giant Israeli flag that they put up on one of the few buildings left standing in Rafah, down in southern Gaza. And as the drone just pans around this flag, you can see that Rafah is just decimated. I mean, it's just one giant pile of rubble. And that's really unfortunate for the people who, were living there. That's really bad for them. And I legitimately feel sorry for, the innocent people who have lost their homes because of the actions of Hamas. But elections have consequences. Those people were voted in, and probably not fairly, but whatever. And here's why it's hard to feel too bad for what's happened in Gaza, because there are still a whole bunch of hostages being held there. And so every time I hear people complaining about the casualties and the destruction and everything in Gaza, I just want to say, have you tried releasing the hostages? I mean, that would be an idea. Maybe things wouldn't get wrecked so bad if you'd let the hostages go. You bunch of morons. Okay, so the greatest story you never heard read, Tree of Life, decoded book. Okay, yeah, I don't understand why people do that. Unfortunately for the people who live in Lebanon, many of whom are Christians, it's likely, hey, dobry wieczór. That's my buddy. I went hiking with him this morning. 8 o'clock this morning, I was out here bright and early, and we went up and went hiking up the mountain. He's in his mid 60s. He's my son's landlord, and he doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Armenian, but we both speak a little bit of Russian, and I have my phone, so we had a great time. It was a wonderful time hiking up the mountain and doing a little exercise, and then we went and harvested some wild walnuts and some berries that I have no idea what they were, but I had to eat a bunch of them. And we just had a great time. I love getting, having a chance to just get into the everyday life of people in the places that I go. And not just sort of skimming off the top like a tourist, but actually, living among them, seeing their patterns of life. And man, you learn so much about people and about yourself that way. It was really a good time to do this. I appreciate him. We had barbecue with him last night. He invited us over for dinner and fed us a whole bunch of wonderful food and far too much of his homemade vodka that I really should not have even touched because that stuff's strong. Question.
Shout out to Chuck. I'm going to leave the link for his video in the description below. Shout out to Chuck Holton. He's got that intel from overseas. I'd love to go tap in with his channel so I get some like on the ground, trustworthy, credible news source. You know what I mean? Once again, shout out to Chuck Holton. All right, so we got a article. We have an article here, CNN. I was gonna pull up this Al Jazeera one. The Al Jazeera one's like 14 hours old. I want something like up to date. This is like 2 hours ago. So, for what it says for me, let's go see what's going on with the latest, because we just heard some interesting insight from Chuck Holton about the 2006 invasion, and how they had a ceasefire and everything like that. The UN had to pull up. It's very interesting, and then I pulled up the photos and we got to go check that out. But that was the 2006. I want to hear what's going on like right now. So Israel strikes Lebanon as U.S. pushes for ceasefire, and that's what Chuck Holton was talking about. Chuck Holton mentioned that that the U.S. went straight, like right over Israel's head, directly to the folks that run Hezbollah. It was like, yo, we want a ceasefire. They're like, all right, sure. And then he goes in the fact that apparently Israel was like, no, we can't do that. And then the folks in Lebanon are like, nah, we can't do that either. So now they're just back in this. Oh, man. It's insane. So U.S. Secretary of Defense pushes for ceasefire. So this is Lloyd Austin speaks at the Old Royal Naval College in London on Thursday. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin forcefully advocated for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called reports of an imminent ceasefire in Lebanon incorrect. Let me be clear, Israel and Lebanon can choose a different path, Austin said at a news conference in London. Despite the sharp escalation in recent days, a diplomatic solution is still viable. Austin's comments come after the U.S. and allies called for a 21-day ceasefire, and Netanyahu said that Israel will continue fighting with full force. Quote, a diplomatic solution, not a military solution, is the only way to ensure that displaced civilians on both sides of the border can finally go back home. End quote, Austin said. Austin also warned that no one should try to exploit this crisis or expand this conflict. That's very important. It's very important. You got to make that known. We don't want any other actors, foreign actors, getting involved against the U.S. forces in the region. Make no mistake, the United States remains postured to protect our forces and our personnel across the Middle East, said Austin. He also said a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah would allow for time to continue working toward a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. British Defense Secretary John Healey and Australian Defense Minister Richard Marles echoed their support for the proposed 21-day ceasefire, with Healey saying that Israel had said it is prepared to accept the proposal. Israeli Defense Minister says military has additional missions to complete and fight against Hezbollah. Yoav Gallant seen December 2023 in Tel Aviv. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that the military has additional missions to complete in the fight against Hezbollah as it presses on with the intense strikes against the militant group. We have additional missions to complete in order to ensure the safe return of Israel's northern communities to their homes. We will continue throwing Hezbollah off balance and deepening their loss, he said. Gallant's remarks come as the U.S. and allies have been urging for a ceasefire across the Israel-Lebanon border to prevent an all-out regional war from erupting. And the defense minister said he met with top military officials on Thursday to approve planned operations in the northern arena, referring to the part of the Israel close to the border with Lebanon. Of course, we are continuing our sequence of operations, eliminating Hezbollah Hezbollah bad guys, dismantling Hezbollah's offensive infrastructure, and destroying rockets and missiles, Gallant said. Israel has been launching a barrage of airstrikes across swaths of Lebanon as it conflicts with Hezbollah. As this conflict, with Hezbollah escalates. Israel's military has vowed to speed up its offensive operations against Hezbollah without reprieve. Troops on Wednesday held exercises stimulating ground combat in Lebanon, which the military has ruled out. Palestinian Authority leader tells UN madness cannot continue in Gaza and the West Bank. Dude, this just keeps going. Oh my God, this is insane. Israel says strikes on Beirut suburbs killed Hezbollah commander. Man, Netanyahu lands in New York for UN General Assembly. That's right. I did hear intel about that. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has landed in New York, and an Israeli official tells CNN where he will address the United Nations General Assembly. Netanyahu had been set to fly on Wednesday to address the UN on Thursday, but delayed his trip due to the ongoing fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. He is now expected to speak at the General Assembly on Friday, which is tomorrow. Today is September 26, 2024. Hope everyone's doing well. And an Israeli official told CNN earlier that talks over a potential temporary ceasefire with Hezbollah are a main motivator for Netanyahu's trip. Yeah, we got to get some intel on that. We got to get a video for that right now. Interesting. Yeah, I was gonna pull up this Reuters. I was gonna pull up the Reuters article, but I want to see more about this trip here that he's taking. Yeah, I need something like right now. Here we go.
Israeli Prime Minister.
Nice. Let's get the video for this. Let's pull this up. Is this ABC7? ABC7 be killing it, dog. ABC7 has the freaking videos. Let's go check this out. It's your boy kicking it with Timmy B. Benjamin Netanyahu in New York for the UN General Assembly tomorrow, September 27th, 2024. Let's get it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departing Israel overnight, now headed here to New York City, where he will address the UN General Assembly tomorrow.
Meanwhile, a large anti-war protest is scheduled for the east side today. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson is in the newsroom covering all of it. Kim?
Charlene and Mike, right now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is finally on his way here to New York City. His flight had been delayed due to the ongoing fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Early this morning, he departed Israel, heading to the UN General Assembly on Manhattan's east side. Netanyahu was initially scheduled to take off Wednesday and address the UN today, but with all the changes, he's now expected to speak tomorrow. With his arrival, we do expect to see another big pro-Palestinian protest outside of the UN today. Tuesday night, 32 people were arrested during a demonstration. And we also have an update on news of a possible ceasefire agreement. The Prime Minister's office saying this is not true, that it was an American-French proposal to which he did not respond to.
Okay, well, I'll keep you updated, folks, on that. Now that we have this the ceasefire talk here, I'll keep you updated if anything happens. It's your boy kicking it with Timmy B. Hit the like, share, and the subscribe button. Hit me up on all platforms at Kicking It with Timmy B. Drink water. See you on the next one. Bye.